So, I've noticed something after my 25 years of seeing psychiatrists and taking hundreds of medications and being off and on them, and seeing how doctors act when you report side effects like headaches, nausea, suicidal, all these different things. Being put in the programs my whole life with people who are schizophrenic, can't control their behaviors. They have OCD, they have impulsion control. Some of them think they're gay, some of them don't. I admit, I didn't know what I was because everybody kept on telling me I was gay, even though I thought I was straight. I even, in high school, my like freshman year, I had people who thought I was gay. I told them I wasn't, and they said, "You should just come out of the closet. You're gay. You're gay." After a year of that shit, I ended up just saying, "Whatever. If you guys think I'm gay, I must be." And then after that, people just kept on calling me gay there. But then I just never said that again. Never met those people again, and I still have to deal with this stuff. Um, People complain that are homosexual about how hard it is to be them, but I have something a little more difficult. What I am is a straight man that everybody around thinks he's gay. I have the body of a gay man, skinny. I have a voice that has been screwed up. I have a nervous system that is screwed up. I'm very patient. I try to be very clean. I'm not that clean. I'm a guy in that, but I do try to keep it clean. Anyways, so you put all that together and people read it as homosexual. I'm also a hippie, so I wear a lot of like tie-dye and hippie hats and things like that. So people might take the rainbow colors as something, but I make sure they never wear a rainbow flag. No rainbows. No rainbows for me. It has to be strictly established hippie clothing or hippie wear, and then I'll make an exception. But even then, I don't wear a lot of hippie wear. I have a hemp wallet. I have a boogaloo sweater. Actually, I have 3 boogaloo sweaters and some tie-dye. That's about it. And some hemp shoes. But anyways, we're going to go back to the main point here. On the main thing I've been noticing is that psychiatrists seem to be exploring and finding more mental illnesses and more people that are mentally ill than ever. But after you hang out with people, spend years and years and years and years of your life living with these people, speaking with them, speaking with the doctors, you can figure out what ended up happening. So before the 1960s, psychology, psychiatrists, and therapists, they were making okay money. But they weren't making mansion money. They weren't making rich vacation money. They weren't making, in other words, doctor money. Like when you go to see a surgeon or a proctologist or a dermatologist that works with skin, any of those, they have big, big, giant houses. They go on many vacations. They're very, very well off. Well, the psych industry, the mental health industry wasn't booming like that. There just wasn't a boom like that. And then all these foods and cigarettes and big commercial industries were damaging people's health, and money was being given back into the medical industry. And by the way, that was in a way planned. I mean, as the doctors end up fixing people up, there's a little more to it than that. I mean, there's a lot more to it than that. But anyways, so if you think 60s and before, psychiatrists weren't making bank. But then after the 75, 80s, it probably was closer to after the 80s, all of a sudden, a lot of these psychiatrists started making a lot of money, but there wasn't a lot of them yet. Then the 90s came around, and there was even more and more psychiatrists making bank and bank and bank, and there seemed to be more and more people going crazy or acting crazy. And then you got today, the 2000, 2010, 2020s. Now, this is what ended up happening. I'll give you an example. On the news, some guy jumped into an aquarium naked. They were in Bass Sporting Goods. He was with friends. The guy came back and jumped into the Bass Pro Shop naked. Okay. Stuff like that has been going on for hundreds of years. He needs to be arrested for indecent exposure, charged, brought to court, pay a fine, go to jail, and come back out. That's his punishment for jumping in that aquarium naked. You go to jail or you pay a fine, or you got to go to court, and it goes on your record. And yeah, you might even be a sex offender now. That is your charge. That is the consequence of jumping in an aquarium naked in public. But no, see, what ends up happening is they establish that he's psychotic. They put him in a psych institution. They strap him to beds, and they give him all these crazy drugs, giving him brain damage. Then they release him a month or two later, and then he really is crazier than when he came in before. See, there was nothing wrong with him. His friend said, "I dare you," or he lost a bet or something, or maybe he had a thought, "I bet that water feels nice, it's hot in here." He had a thought. He had no impulse control, and he did it because he thought it would be fun. It's that simple. Things like that have been happening for hundreds of years. People have been getting naked, jumping in the water for hundreds of years. And yes, it is illegal, and there is a place in the laws for it. But if we consider that psychotic behavior, the reason why we should be giving people all different types of drugs right there without further trying to look into the situation. I mean, any doctor can establish any child psychotic, and they can easily take a behavior like jumping in public in an aquarium naked as psychotic behavior, and then that gets established. Then what happens is it rolls down from there. Anytime that individual makes a mistake, or even if somebody says he made a mistake, it's going to be considered psychotic behavior. Most likely, he'll even be blamed for things he didn't do. So this is how that goes downhill. I see it all the time. I mean, a guy jumps into a pool, in an aquarium naked. He's an idiot. But people have been idiots for centuries. I mean, people accidentally kill themselves. It's called the Darwin Awards. Now, what changed? What changed? Somebody jumps into an aquarium naked in 1940, they get arrested, they go to prison, and they get charged. Somebody jumps into an aquarium in 2024, they're strapped to a bed and given lots of drugs and then released to the public. What is the difference here? The difference is they want repeat business. The psychiatrists and the doctors and the whole big pharma industry years ago decided they were going to make bank off of us. They decided they could come up with a plan to make money off of the U.S. public. We're their cash cows. We're falling for it. There's millions of Americans who don't need medication and are on it. There's lots of Americans that need medication and can't get it. And it's just a big, big mess. That's why I call this the broken states of America. We're not united. The corporations have divided us more than ever. The corporations have taken our government. They've divided us. They've decided to poison us with our food and medications. They're taking control of our health care. They're taking control of just about every part of our lives. And we're giving it away, too. By going on these social media sites and giving them our personal information and feeding into this, we're losing our power to change it when it comes to that day. I mean, it's coming to the day where people are starting to wake up and see through the bullshit. And if enough people see through the bullshit, they'll realize, oh shit, we've been taken advantage of. I've been working for the last 5 years and I haven't got my paycheck. $3 has been missing out of my paycheck for how long? Oh yeah, that's been kicked up to the top for the last 40 years. You didn't know about that? You didn't know while inflation was going up, your paychecks didn't? You didn't know that money was still being made in America, and those charts show that we keep going up? If you look at the history from the 1910, and you go all the way up to 1970, as America grew, as everything grew, as all the lines went together, all of us grew. As America did better, all of us did better. As America produced more goods and more money, America did better. But then in 1975, all of a sudden you see the lines start diverging. You see the middle class and under flatlining. And you see the top classes skyrocketing like a fucking rocket going in outer space. And there's many, many different converging reasons for this. And there's many studies that they've done to make sure this is the case. And every single study, every single result, every single math they add up all comes to the same conclusion. That wealth inequality is worse than ever. And part of the reason is that we're being used as a cash cow. People can't make money while having drugs and their mind messed up. Then they're supposed to work like 80 hours a week to support their, I mean, if you're a single mother with a kid, you're going to be working 80 hours a week because you got to put that kid in get daycare, you got to get diapers, you got to get food, and you're going to be working quite a lot. So you're going to need even more daycare days. So think about maybe an 80-hour work week if you're a single mother. And forget about it. If one doctor says that you are psychotic or you do something stupid, or if you have any psychotic record beforehand, you're at risk for having your child taken away and then being poisoned. Like me, I am somebody who was taken from their mother and then put in the state's care. While I was in the state's care, before I was even in foster care, the state decided to give me double doses of medicine. Some kid put ketchup in my orange juice, told the staff I didn't take my meds, and then the staff held me down and gave me the same meds twice in the same hour. No matter how many times I told them, I still took my meds. This was under the state's care that they did this to me. Then after that, I go through foster care and I get an adopted mother. Now, one, these parents are too old to probably be taking care of a child. Now, the father was very good. He was very good to me, but the mother, as she got older, her mind started to go, and she was doing really screwed up stuff right from the get-go. So the fact, and I was reporting weapons in the house, suicidal thoughts, being over medicated, all different types of things that concerned me. And nobody did anything. I even with my mother and father, went to the doctors. When the doctors asked about any allergies or anything, I would mention this bullshit allergy attack my mother did to me. And not even that. On top of it, the first ever time I mentioned it, all my mother did was stop the conversation, look at the doctor, and say it was an allergy. Because the doctor looked very concerned when I first described this. And he should be. He should have frickin' called the state, right? A 7-year-old comes to a doctor. Okay, what do we have? Anything you have questions for me? He's like, yeah, I had this allergy where I lost my sight. I couldn't walk. I passed out. I couldn't breathe. I don't know what was going on. And this was right after some medications your mother gave you? Yeah. Oh, it's just allergy attack. Don't listen to him. That's ridiculous. That's the most ridiculous thing to do to a child I ever heard of. How my mother thought that was okay, not to bring me to the emergency room. For one, if it was an accident, you bring them to the emergency room. For two, I don't think it was an accident. I think she wanted a quiet evening because it was supposed to be Batman night. I was coming over and we were supposed to be watching Batman. And she wanted me to be asleep because she didn't want to spend hours and hours watching Batman on the couch. No, absolutely not. So I do think that there was something more, but I'll never know for sure. All I can be sure of is I was given pills, and I should have been brought to the emergency room right after that. And that after I went to the doctor, she called it an allergy attack, and she couldn't even remember what medications I was on that night. And this is right away. I mean, people say they can't remember now, but even the year of this event, they were saying they couldn't remember what medications I was on. So you got all this going on, and then, you bring this orphan, a state comes in, takes a single mother that's working 80 hours, that the psych doctors say is psychotic, they take their child away, they put them in a system where they get drugged, hurt, beat, raped, whatever. Then when they get to be 18, 19, they're on like 4 or 5 different pills that are screwing them up. If they go into any hospitals, homeless shelters, there's a lot of other ways this could go bad. And if they did receive any organ damage, brain damage, or seizures, or any damage whatsoever from those medications or from their childhood, then it's going to be rough going forward. And if they have any children, then the cycle repeats. And what's even worse is the psych doctors are making bank off of this whole cycle. And they're over-medicating. Out of my 2 girlfriends that have definitely been diagnosed with psychotic behaviors, only one of them really had them. That was the suicidal one, Angly Beth. She had her eye beaten. Her eye didn't work. She was used for Social Security. She came from Cambodia or Laos or something like that. And in their country, they were getting American citizenship, and her father just beat the living hell out of her until her eye popped out, really bloodied her, let that heal up, and then brought her baby that now has brain damage to America. It wasn't a baby, she was like 3 or something, but still, wicked messed up stuff. So yeah, she was wicked messed up, but with suicidal thoughts and emotional issues from lack of parenting and coming to America at a young age and joining a fucked up system, and her parents don't even speak English. So her parents have no idea what's going on with this system. They can't even make a phone call. This girl has lived in these hospitals getting held down and drugged her whole life. So yeah, she is psychotic, but only because they made her psychotic. She spent her whole life in hospitals, and her father and mother never ever really raised her. She speaks English, they speak Cambodian. Literally, she speaks Cambodian, but not as good as her parents, and she speaks English better. Meanwhile, her parents speak no English whatsoever. None. They can't even say hi or anything. That shows how little, and they didn't raise her either. So yes, she has a lot of problems. But then you got my other girlfriend, Jasmine. Now, she went through the same system, but she went through the foster care system, and she was able to kind of stay away from the drugs because her father didn't really want to keep her in any of those hospitals. So she was doing great until about 18. She got in a fist fight with her younger brother that was 16, a big, heavy, fat guy. I always thought he was much older. And they fist fighted a little bit. So the father sent her to the hospital. And then the hospital, apparently somebody gave her a cornrows. They put her on lots of pills. When she came back, she wasn't the same person. She looked brain dead. She couldn't quite speak right. She lost the spark. Her skin didn't have that flare of like I'm a happy person. And within only a couple months, she looked like a depressed wreck. And as the pills went on, she became a homeless drug addict, selling her body on the street. I found out in Lowell, Massachusetts. I knew her when I lived in Chelmsford from a school in Tewksbury. But guess what? She ended up in Lowell, Massachusetts as a prostitute on the streets. And why? Because she ended up getting no education. She went to a special ed school. She ended up getting used for Social Security, just like my other two girlfriends. Both of them were on Social Security. Jasmine and Lily. Both were on Social Security, which the parents controlled all the way until they were 18. Both went through the same system, but one got to stay away from the drugs and got messed up less. But then the drugs came into place at about 18, which she eventually did stop, and she ended up medicating herself with crack cocaine. The other one will never figure out what the hell's going on because she has no parents, no guidance, nobody to navigate her through this. So she's just going to think she's fucked up for life, when now she is. She definitely has PTSD from all the beatings and abuse. She definitely has been brainwashed into thinking she needs pills she doesn't need, and a lot of them she doesn't. There are pills she does need, like she definitely needs pills for depression and anxiety. Absolutely she did, but there was a whole rack of pills that weren't helping her at all. They were making her much worse, and she still wanted to take them because everybody kept on taking them. She'd complain about like horrible things, then I'd call the doctor, and the doctor would say, well, she needs to stay on it for longer. Now, where is she? She committed suicide. She's still bouncing from hospital to hospital. The other one is a prostitute. She's not on medication anymore. Hopefully she'll get sober. But I've seen the damage. I've seen this in the beginning. I've seen it to the end. I've seen every process of this. I've seen how these kids start out, and I see how they are in the middle and the end. The ones that start out on my medications and go off of them for years, they get better. The ones that stay on the medications, they go downhill quick. The ones that start medications at the age of 10, they go downhill after 10. The ones that start medications at 18, they go down at 18. And when they start the medications, I can see straight into somebody when they are different than they were before. If you spend a year and a half with me without medications, I can identify your behavior traits. And then you come back on medications, I can identify your behavior traits. Now, one behavior trait that I do say that seems to be controlled a lot because of this is hyperactivity. I know at least 3 people that are just hyper. They can go all day, they can work, they talk a lot, just like me. I'm one of them. And the doctors just want to give dangerous lots of medication for it. Medication that could have long-term side effects that are way worse than just being hyper. Being hyper is not exactly a disease or anything that will hurt you. If anything, it is a gift that allows you to work harder in shorter amounts of time. And if you learn how to control it, stop yourself, it can be a gift from God. But nobody wants to teach these children how to control their hyperactivity. Instead, they just want to drug them blind. And that's part of the problem. We're ending up with a big population that is, their minds are not right because of our system. It's the system around it. These kids don't start out psychotic. They're not, well, some of them are born that way, but a lot of them aren't born this way. A lot of them are created. I've watched them in the programs in the schools. I've seen some real cases of schizophrenia. I've seen some real cases of autism. I've seen some real cases of depression and PTSD. But then I've seen a lot of fake cases of people who don't understand what these conditions are. They've just been told by their doctor they have it and they take this pill, but they don't understand what it is or how to identify it in themselves. And this is why it's important to consider that when seeing a psychiatrist, because a lot of them are not there to help you. And that's a big problem. That's a big problem. A lot of them don't even know what went on before them either. A lot of them are just continuing a tradition that they're not aware started at some point. They're not aware of what it was like before the 60s. So a lot of them are just continuing traditions in the way that it's done. To them, when they went to school, this is the way it's done. You just over-medicate. Isn't that what we do? A kid complains about this, this, and this, or his friend says he didn't take his meds, and we just hold him down, right? Isn't that protocol? They'll say something like that, and that effect. But the way this is done is very obvious to anybody who spends the time looking through it. It's not hard to see, and as time goes by, it will become more and more obvious to more and more people.